Hey guys, welcome back. The video you're about to watch was recorded last year, March 2022. It is about nihilism, when it shows up as a problem, how nihilism is a style. It is a style of valuing or failing to find value. I discuss it with the help of Nietzsche, a couple of passages from different works, and with reference to a couple of personal experiences that show my own struggles with nihilism. Anyways, hope you enjoy it and let me know what you think if you have any feedback. Thank you.
I want to show the deep relevance of the issue of nihilism in our lives, in my life. And another aim that I have is I want to show that if Nietzsche's formula for nihilism can really be disentangled from Christianity. Christianity and Nietzsche's understanding of Christianity provided one formula of how the highest values devaluate themselves. In my own case, I want to work with these two episodes in my life. One of the darkest moments in my own life was 2015 when I defended my PhD. I remember walking out of the defense and I was supposed to meet with my friends and have drinks with them and celebrate. And I was also supposed to later meet with my family and again celebrate with them. But I contacted both my friends and told them I'm meeting with my family, and I contacted my family and I said I'm meeting with my friends, and I just ended up spending the rest of the day alone by myself. And I really, on that day, I experienced something like a peak of nihilism. I realized the thing that I was driven by, I was really driven by this academic pursuit. I really wanted to achieve this end point, this point of meaning. And I thought this defense, this getting a PhD is going to bring meaning into my life. But it couldn't. And I discovered that it couldn't bring meaning, that meaning isn't there. It isn't outside. And being let down in that profound way after working toward a goal for, 7 years, 9 years, I don't know how long I've been consciously living with that goal in mind. That's one. The second episode, more recently, I'm still living through it, is leaving academia. Now, leaving academia is far more complicated than what you might expect, what you might imagine before doing it, before making that decision, before going through that decision, before enacting the decision and facing the consequences. This is really I think that the strongest encounter, my deepest, most powerful encounter with nihilism is happening since I've left academia. I watch myself and my motivation, and I pick up a book and I open a book to read it. And if the book is a little bit academic, I find myself asking, why are you reading this? Don't you remember you're not an academic anymore? Don't you remember you're not a professor anymore? What are you doing? This is absurd. So these are the moments where I'm kind of, you can think of different metaphors of describing it. One way of describing it is, imagine you are breaking out of a shell and you're still finding the remnants of some broken pieces of that old shell on your body. It's like, oh yeah, I'm still thinking like an academic. I'm still assuming that what I read is supposed to find its justification from my social role, from my institutional role. If I don't have that institutional role, then I don't have the right to read certain texts. This is the style of thinking, that an old habit that I'm kind of shaking off. I'm shedding, trying to allow other things to come up. Anyways, I want to read with you some passages from Nietzsche, some passages about nihilism. These are from Will to Power. What does nihilism mean? That the highest values devaluate themselves. The aim is lacking. Why? Finds no answer. So imagine a naive PhD student at the end of his defense. The highest values. It is precisely because they value those aims, like getting a PhD. It's precisely for that reason that now nihilism is encountered. It is the highest values that are devaluating themselves. It comes from that formula, again, the formula that Nietzsche identifies in Christianity, in religious form of life. It is that formula of nihilism production that begins with a style of valuing And that style of valuing is a first wrong step, I think, in my understanding of Nietzsche. Next passage. The nihilistic question, for what, is rooted in the old habit of supposing that the goal must be put up, given, demanded from outside by some superhuman authority. Having unlearned faith in that, one still follows the old habit and seeks another authority that can speak unconditionally and command goals and tasks. The authority of conscience now steps up front. The more emancipated one is from theology, the more imperativistic morality becomes, to compensate for the loss of a personal authority, or the authority of reason, or the social instinct, the herd. I'm also at the end of this passage, I'm reminded of people who use evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology to justify some behaviors. Like I had this colleague at one of my old universities who was an evolutionary psychologist, and he was divorced, but he also had a history of infidelity to his wife. And he said, like, this is evolutionary psychology. My conscience is fine because I know that the history of human evolution provides permission to men to be unfaithful to their romantic partners. You know, that kind of reasoning. He's not saying that I want to be unfaithful, I want to seek pleasure. He's not. That would be brave. That would be a form of confidence that maybe Nietzsche would approve of, saying that I want to do this. I want this form of life. No, instead he says, yeah, I want to be promiscuous because evolutionary psychology provides me with that justification. So that's nihilistic. Next passage is a short one from Beyond Good and Evil, and highlights the possibility of nihilism in scientific pursuits, academic pursuits, scholarly pursuits. This is number 64. Knowledge for its own sake. That is the ultimate trap. There's the ultimate snare which morality sets. With that, one gets fully entangled once again in morality. Here is a way to be nihilistic as, let's say, a scholar. People will ask you, what are you doing? And you can say, I'm pursuing knowledge for its own sake. It's a knowledge for its own sake, not saying knowledge for its utility, knowledge to serve the community, and also not saying because I want to, because I enjoy it, because I choose. No, it's an external form of the anchor of justification is outside. The pivot is outside, and then it is an incomplete and isolated. It's an isolated source of justification. It's knowledge isolated from all other connections to human life, connections to my personhood, connections to community, connection to practical matters, and we fall back into a kind of morality. Next, from the twilight of the idols. Here, he begins by quoting a passage from Gustave Flaubert. The translation says, one can't think and write unless one is seated. Okay, so Flaubert says, I need to sit down in order to think and write. If I'm walking around, I can't. And Nietzsche responds to this and says, now I've got you, you nihilist. I love this. This is very charming. I've got you. And why is that? Why is it that Nietzsche calls Flaubert a nihilist based on this statement, based on the dictum that you should sit down to think and write? Because sitting down is a form of, just like the previous passage, knowledge for its own sake, sitting down is a form of isolating yourself, disconnecting yourself from walking, from different places that you might go to, from the body, from the physiological embodied aspect of your being. By sitting down, you are making yourself stationary, isolated in an artificial setting, maybe a study room, an office. Nietzsche goes on, assiduity is a sin against the Holy Spirit. Only thoughts that come by walking have any value. Only thoughts that come by while you're walking have any value. I think Glenn Wallace paraphrases this into saying, I only trust a thought, or you should only trust a thought that comes to you while you're walking. Because walking is an act of connecting two places to each other. Even if you're walking aimlessly, you're still walking from a place to another place, or finding a way of connecting one place to itself through a path. Anyways, Next, again, we are turning back to the will to power. This is where I finally understood the connection between exhaustion as a sign to nihilism. Exhaustion is a sign that one is nihilistic. That moment I had after my PhD defense, that was a revelation to me that I had been a nihilist. And I found that through exhaustion. Nietzsche is pointing out here that exhaustion shouldn't be taken simplistically. You shouldn't just think about exhaustion as spiritual exhaustion, psychological exhaustion, as, oh, I just did too much. I'm tired. I need to rest and recover. No. Let's read. The most dangerous misunderstanding. One concept apparently permits no confusion and ambiguity, that of exhaustion. Exhaustion can be acquired or inherited. In any case, it changes the aspect of things, the value of things. Exhaustion changes the value of things. So it is not, I mean, my reading of this passage is that Nietzsche is pushing back against a simplistic, unambiguous, ready at hand meaning of exhaustion. It says that exhaustion is more complicated. It is something that you can acquire or inherit. And that inheritance is a way of valuing things. Our exhaustion it shows up in the changes we experience in the way we value things. Now, I'm exhausted after leaving academia. I was exhausted after defending my PhD. And now that I hold a book in my hand, I am perceiving changes in the value of that kind of object, a book. The value of things has changed. That's the exhaustion that I experience. Finally, as opposed to those who, from the fullness they represent and feel, involuntarily give to things and see them fuller, more powerful, and pregnant with future, who at least are able to bestow something, the exhausted diminish and botch all they see. They impoverish the value. They are harmful. One more time from the beginning of this passage. As opposed to those who, from the fullness they represent and feel. So this is the way Nietzsche wants us to be. He wants us to be full. He wants us to have a fullness with which we feel and represent things. We shouldn't go to, like these students who come to the professor and says, tell me that that studying is valuable. Tell me, because I'm unmotivated. Or I am now holding a book in my hand and I want an external authority to tell me that it's meaningful. I'm not full if I do that. I'm not representing things with a fullness. So as opposed to those who, from the fullness they represent and feel, involuntarily give to things and see them fuller, more powerful, and pregnant with future, who at least are able to bestow something. In contrast to those, the exhausted individual, the exhausted people, diminish. They want to take. They demand meaning. They demand value. They demand unconditional valuation of something. They want a steady anchor point, a steady point of reference that they can use. And because they use it, they take, and then they exhaust both themselves and the source that they are relying on. They exhaust it, diminish, and botch all they see. They impoverish the value. They are harmful. Okay. I am, I need to apply this to my series of videos on, any series of videos, any long-term project. I've been doing a series of videos on great ideas in psychology, and it has been a little bit tiring because it consists of 20 parts. And last night I recorded part 9, and there's a long way to go. Now, my sense of exhaustion, my sense of being tired should indicate to me that I am not representing this project from a place of fullness, that I should give to this project as opposed to wanting to take from it. I should bring meaning to this project as opposed to trying to find meaning and be disappointed when it doesn't have meaning, when other people don't watch it, or when people don't comment, or they don't press the like button, when the views go down each time a new installment comes up. All those, being disappointed by all of those indications, by all those signs, is itself a sign that I am being nihilistic. And I should move away from that dangerous position to a position that has that fullness in it. All right, I think that's where we can stop. Hope you found it interesting. If you have any thoughts, feedback, please let me know. We can spend time with Nietzsche, bring him to our lives and to our moments. Thank you for watching, and till next time.